It was a beautiful, though scorcher of a Saturday afternoon in Colorado's Rocky Mountains. We headed west from Evergreen to the little mountain town of Dillon, where we landed at Dillon Amphitheater. Yonder Mountain String Band's broken-down tour bus obstructed a portion of the road as we parked, packed our gear, and headed down the backstage ramp into the picturesque venue, where that evening, Yonder Mountain, Railroad Earth, and Leftover Salmon would once again come together for an evening under the stars. Our first interview of the day took place backstage in one of the hospitality tents with Vince Herman of Leftover Salmon. How are you today, Vince?
Festival is on the menu today. Beautiful Dillon, man. Dillon Amphitheater. Never been up here before. This is beautiful.
Oh, really? This is your first time here?
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll get some good weather. The one thing about Dillon is they get some storms in the afternoon, evening that are pretty treacherous sometimes, so hopefully it holds up today. How has the tour with Yonder and Railroad been so far?
It's such fun to have friends to just hang with all day and pick, and then there's usually a big cluster pluck at the end, and it's fun. I really wanted to have this summer be a kind of a celebration. And it has been, between the festivals we play and putting together this 3-band package, it's just been an ideal summer.
What are you guys celebrating?
Being alive in 2024, crazy things going on all over the place, but music brings sanity to it somehow.
What's the approach to touring with 3 bands that individually could headline any given show, and how do you guys approach order of lineup and things like that?
Well, hopefully 1 + 1 + 1 = 6, But it's great. The crews have all been together, necessarily coordinating things between all the bands and loading in, loading off, getting everybody up at the stage at one time at the end, doing that sort of thing. It takes a coordinated crews, and the crews work really well together. Really lucky on that. We just get to hang out and pick and have a good time with our friends. It's a perfect way to have a summer.
I mean, this reminds me of some of the old tours and festivals from like the early, mid-2000s when a lot of the bigger bands used to tour together. I really like this formula, and I can't wait to see how this translates in live time. I spoke with some of the original members of Yonder Mountain for a podcast a few months back, and they spoke of the importance of Leftover Salmon and how much they looked up to you guys in their formative years in and around Nederland. Has there ever been an awareness or reflection on how much you guys have impacted some pretty influential bands in their own right? And what are some of the pressures, if any, of that role as sort of a mentor?
Well, I guess what you're saying is we're the old guys. Somehow it turned into that, But we still feel like, the young interlopers on the scene, doing crazy things, the bluegrass music that perhaps more respectable people wouldn't do. But I don't know, we just found a way to have a good time playing the music that's in our heads, be it, Cajun music or bluegrass or calypso or any of that kind of stuff has always been on the target. There's never been a design or much of a plan to Leftover Salmon other than just go out and have a good time doing the music we like to do. And I don't know, I guess it just shows if you stick around for 34 years, you influence people.
Have you ever reflected on that as your role of a mentor and what responsibility might come with that? And I hate to use the word responsibility when we're talking about this kind of thing, but
I look at my sons playing music and think how cool it is that I've been able to pass along this really joyful way of living to them. And, that's the influence, I guess, I'm most aware of and most grateful for. It's a long line of of mentors for us, and the line keeps moving forward, I guess. And we're just really grateful for being part of the chain.
What are some of your fondest memories of touring and playing with Leftover Salmon over the years?
Wow, man! Just getting to play with people that are real heroes to us. From Waylon Jennings, Earl Scruggs, Sam Bush. And, man, it's just been a really, really fantastic time. These 34 years of doing this slamgrass thing, and God, so many stories.
What's the craziest thing you've seen on the road?
The craziest thing I've seen on the road
that you feel comfortable talking about?
Wow. Well, last night after the show, I went to a pickin' party, and there was a girl from India here to study bluegrass and stuff, and we're playing this old timey tune, and she starts singing these Bengali lyrics, with Bengali scales, and it's like, oh, I didn't see that coming.
A lot of people don't know it, but there's an emerging bluegrass scene in India right now.
Yeah, and in Japan, and China also. Bluegrass is making its way around the world. It's roots music, and something about roots music that makes it translatable.
Americans are great at taking other genres and musics and kind of progressing it or making it our own. And I feel like bluegrass is one of the few original genres, so to see it spreading across the globe is kind of an interesting dynamic, and to see other countries' interpretations of the music is wild.
Yeah, of course, jazz music is, American-made, and maybe our most famous export, but, bluegrass is creeping in around the edges and seeping into all sort of scenes, and it's great to see.
I know you said it was your first time here, but what does the beauty of a venue like Dillon Amphitheater bring to the table, and how does it affect the vibe or the energy of a show?
Well, there's no denying that you're in Colorado when you're looking out at the lake and the mountains all around, and the Colorado vibes are high vibes. When we started in 1990, we ended up playing a lot of ski areas, and people would be on vacation and just ready to have a good time. And man, any band would want to have that sort of scenario going on. Colorado's always been good for that, whether people are vacationing or living their life like a vacation. Colorado's a great place to do it, and it's a great place to play music, that's for sure. And nothing reminds you of being in Colorado like this venue right here.
How about this lake in the background, huh?
Oh, it's beautiful.
I had you over my house in Denver for the Music Marauders podcast in December of 2019, and you both debuted brand new Good Old Days and alluded to Billy Strings being the future of bluegrass. I wonder if you could provide us with any more insight on what the future holds in regards to live music, independent festivals, and the music industry as a whole.
Well, man, there's a lot of really good things going on. Oliver Anthony is a really interesting phenomenon. He's just doing great and is just a roots music singer, and he's looking to do some interesting festivals next year that could be real interesting, to go outside of the usual venues and go to towns that need an economic boost, and really being community celebrating festivals. And I think that's the future, man, doing good things with bringing a crowd to a place. Towns are starting to see that having music is a really good economic thing for them, and to bring music to places that don't usually have it is I think that's the next step in bringing festival to the world. Yeah.
Are the days of independent festivals numbered?
No, not at all.
I hate to ask that question, but we see so many festivals folding and taking years off, and it seems like there's less and less of the independent festivals, and I'm wondering if that creates more space for the ones that remain, or if you anticipate a ongoing decline moving forward. How do we solidify this thing? Because I think independent festivals are so important.
Well, it's not too hard to find some friend with a couple acres that can have some friends over, and it turns into a party, and then the next year it's a little bigger. Then the next year you got to have a festival. I mean, that's how a lot of fests evolve, and I think that'll keep happening. I mean, certainly, things are a bit streamlined in the industry with pretty much just two players. divvying up everything, but there are things to do outside of that, and bringing people together with music and celebration and culture. Things like the Black Pot Music Festival down in Lafayette, Louisiana. If you're a band playing at the festival, you have to enter the cooking contest. Festivals like Galax and Clifftop, who do old timey music primarily, are just booming, and festivals with real authentic music and more musicians at them than audience. That's what it's like, the mycelium that breeds the music, and those things are still in good shape and will continue to produce great young musicians coming up through them.
We just heard Railroad Earth Soundcheck. What's your least favorite Railroad Earth song?
The one they finish with, because that means their show's done.
Good answer, buddy. I tried to put you on the spot. Good answer. Vince Herman, thank you so much for everything, as always, and thanks for giving us some time today.
Thanks, man. Festival!
I had a dream last night while I was lying on my bed. The whole world was standing still, and the moon was turning red. And I saw a sign in the sky: I have come to set you free. There's a light shining bright, shining down on me. I saw fire, fire and brimstone coming down on my head. I saw fire, fire and brimstone coming down on my head. Come to me. I felt a rumbling beneath my feet, and the whole world was shaking free. And then the sun was standing still. Everything was dark, but I could see. I saw fire, fire and brimstone coming down. Come to me. And then I felt a rumble beneath my feet, and the whole world was shaking free. And then the sun was standing still. Everything was dark, but I could see. Yeah, I saw fire, fire and brimstone coming down. Down on my head. I saw fire.
A short time later, we headed across the street with Tim Carbone and John Skehan of Railroad Earth for a conversation in Tim's hotel room. I asked Vince the same question a little bit earlier, but I'd be curious of your perspective. How has the tour with Yonder and Leftover been thus far? And what's the approach to touring with three bands that individually could headline any given show?
We all have been friends for a really long time, So, really and this, since we did the same setup last year, even more so. We're more used to the routine. And so what we do as far as how many, what are the bands whoever's headlining tonight will open the next show. And so we opened last night, so we're second band tonight, and then we're going to Vail tomorrow night, so we'll headline Vail. So that's how that works. We're just a rotation. And it seems to work out really good. And then the last band gets to have another extra 30 minutes or so that we can all get up and have a cluster plug,
How has the attendance been thus far?
It's been really, really strong. I think, this is a classic case of strength in numbers. And, we've been playing some really, really nice venues, good outdoor amphitheaters. It's kind of a concept, I guess, of a mini traveling festival. Because, of course, as Timmy said, we've been close with all these guys for years and often cross paths on a festival and might be playing right before one another or right after and sitting in and so on. But now we've got this kind of routine down where it's all three of us every night. And it's a great vibe to, have that camaraderie and be around each other, but to have kind of our own controlled festival. And, major props to the crew and all production people, because these three bands in particular, all very different, a lot of production demands, and we're doing this in festival style with often a 20 or 30-minute changeover. So, it's really been running remarkably smoothly, even from the beginning. So that's all crew, production, and of course all the bands being on point and having themselves together and getting through it.
It reminds me of some of the old tours and festivals from the early mid-2000s when a lot of the bigger bands would tour together. And as Vince said, the hope is that 1 + 1 + 1 = 6. Yeah. And I think in this case, these are three of the top tiered bands of this realm. And to see you guys touring together warms my heart.
Mine too.
What are some of your earliest memories of Railroad Earth taking shape?
Well, it's kind of a story. The band kind of started on Andy Gessling's porch, and we were just jamming. We were inviting people over to jam, and John came, and various people came, and our first manager, Brian Ross, who plays guitar and sings, pretty good. He knows a bunch of songs, so he would come and play some songs, and we would jam along with him and all that. And then we would have other people every other, I don't know if we did it, not every week, but a couple of times a month, we would wind up on Andy's porch. And by the end of the summer, sometime I guess in August or towards the end of August, when Todd showed up, and then at that point, it was pretty much you, me, and Andy, and Todd, and Brian. And then Todd brought some songs, and we started framing them around the bluegrassy string band kind of sound, kind of just sort of came out kind of natural. We were pushing that button, but it was pretty organic, I think.
And there's something about the tone of Todd's songwriting at that time that, to me anyhow, it just felt like it wanted acoustic instruments. And I can remember early germination of what became the song 7-Story Mountain, and kind of putting that together in the vibe of Todd's lyrics and the kind of arcing fiddle riff that Timmy and I double on, and just thinking to myself, this will sound really, really cool on an outdoor stage in the right setting. It just felt like that. And there was a point after, all the fun jam sessions at Andy's place, and we kind of began to coalesce, where it was Todd, Andy, Timmy, and myself out in the yard at Todd's old place, the Lonecroft, up in Stillwater, which was the 1780s farmhouse out in the middle of nowhere. And Todd was working on this new song called Black Bear, and we were kind of working through the parts, and he's singing it, and sure enough, 50 feet away from us, 2 or 3 black bears just wander out of the woods while he's right in the middle of the chorus. We're like, it was one of those bristling moments, electrically charged moments where you're like, wow, okay, what's
We'll
next?
Just keep playing. Just keep playing. Don't look at them.
And I kind of remember having this feeling, and we had no idea where this is going or what. I don't know that we had an intention other than let's work on some new music and different, Timmy and Andy obviously had known each other for ages. Timmy and I had become very close playing in other bands and everything. We all knew Todd. And we all worked with members of Todd's previous band, From Good Homes,
And I actually was briefly in From Good Homes for 6 months. So
there's this new, kind of us all pulling together going on. We don't know what the hell's going to happen. But as I said, I remember having this feeling about the 7-story mountain. This could sound amazing outdoors on a stage in this vision. Having no clue that in a few months we would be at Telluride Bluegrass Festival, and you want to talk about an outdoor setting and a 7-story mountain vibe, it was a weird little, did I dream this? Is this happening? What the hell?
You manifested it, John. That's what happened.
That's what it feels like. And that's such a cool song. And your intuition is definitely spot on as far as that being a great song on an outdoor stage. The way that song builds and builds, it's a beautiful composition. It really is.
But the funny thing was, just from those origins of those songs that we recorded first as a demo, that was the first half of the Black Bear sessions, the first record, was we picked up Mike Partridge, who became our longtime sound engineer until just a year ago, on our very first tour. And we really only had the 10 or 11 songs that were on the record done, and realized we have to start playing clubs and things as we work our way across the country to Telluride. We need 10 or 15 more songs. So we were constantly in the hotel room working on stuff. And Mike Partridge, having just met us, was like, wow, these guys are real serious. They're really, really charged into this. And then he realized, oh no, it's because they don't have enough songs. They have to learn all this stuff.
We actually drove straight to Telluride. There weren't any shows in between. We got in the van and drove right to Telluride. And I remember, there's a phrase that I'll take credit for. I coined it. I call it the poetry of place. And every once in a while, I like to stop and just experience where we're at, because we do play in obviously, we're in an amazingly beautiful place right now. And that first trip, I distinctly remember, for some reason, we made the decision to get, instead of taking the interstate all the way down, I'm pretty sure it was because we were gonna hold up in Montrose for a day to see if we can get acclimated to the altitude. And so the thought was, let's take 50 begins in Dodge City, Kansas, and comes out right through to Colorado and winds up in Montrose. And so we got on 50, which was it's the I call it the loneliest highway in the West, because there's a whole giant section where there's really nothing going on. It looks like people just moved out of town. You're going by, and so we stopped for a piss break or whatever. I don't know why we stopped, but it was middle of the night, and we were not too far from the Colorado border. And it was, dawn was coming, and Dave Mondolan and I were just standing, and we were in this gas station that you knew had been closed down for a while, because it said something like, gasoline, $1.98 a gallon on the sign, and it was all covered with cobwebs and all kinds of nonsense. And we saw these two huge spider webs between the gas pump and this thing that held up the roof over the gas pumps. And there was this, each one of them had this big spider in it, like it was yellow with yellow legs, and the wind would blow the web, and it would be going like this. And then there was no sound. No cars came by, nothing. And I remember the only sound that was like, oh, wait, is that what I think it is? And sure enough, it was a tumbleweed clicking and clacking across the road. And then, so I just had this, and that was the first trip. And I don't know why that whole tableau is ingrained in my memory, but
I like that. I wonder what that foreshadows for the experience.
A lot of long nights on empty, dark highways, beautiful places, but just rolling. I mean, what other symbol of the open West is there than the lonesome tumbleweed?
Yeah. The sum of the parts of what you guys have accomplished is pretty incredible from an outside perspective. I know that it could not have been easy to get to the point where you're at now. What were some of the band's struggles in the early days while growing the fan base and making a name for itself?
Well, I mean, for one thing, there wasn't a lot of money going around at first. I mean,
none.
I mean, it's just kind of crazy, but for the first year and a half, at least, maybe even 2 years, we basically were making about $150 a piece a week. Not a job, a week. And for me, it was totally bizarre, because my wife wasn't even working. She was in graduate school. And so I did what any economist would tell you is insane. I took a second mortgage out on my house so that we put it in reserve to pay the bills. But we just lucked out that, that was that time period when all the interest rates were way low. It was way lower than the mortgage that we had before. So now all of a sudden we have $20,000 in the bank. We've lowered our mortgage by like $150 a month and paid off all the credit cards. So it was the right thing to do, but it was definitely scary. But it's just, when you're first starting a band, and we used to go out for like 9 weeks, and there was 8 of us, so we'd get 2 rooms, 4 in a room, and we would rotate out of the beds down onto the floor in blow-up mattresses, and riding around in the van, and dragging a trailer, and that's, to me, it's the road burn and the no money, but at the same time, making really joyous music and realizing that we had something special and we were working on it. So it was a yin and yang. It was nothing super easy about the first part of the band, in my opinion. It was everything was, I wouldn't call it a struggle, but it was determination, I guess.
I really admire that you invested in yourself and took that risk. I think most people dream about that moment where you decide that you think you can do it and you're putting your chips in. And I really respect that. And look at you now, right? Yeah. Look at you now.
Just to me, it's just keep working, keep trying to do better. And, and that happens. Well, it happened for us anyway.
Well, and you talk about the making no money for a couple of years, sleeping on floors and everything. We all did that in our 20s already. Everybody had been in different bands touring. When we started Railroad Earth, we were all, let's say, a little more mature. I was just in my early 30s, I guess. That's a weird time in your life to run away with the circus. Sure, in our 20s, what the hell? That's we all did that. Yeah. Then we were kind of facing, really, we're going to do this again, but I think it helped because we had that seasoning. People knew how to cope with being on the road to an extent. But again, just sort of determination, and I feel like realizing at one point, too, that it felt like we were touching people or we were getting feedback from people that this meant something to them early on, and it made us want to keep going. And you said before, cashing in your chips or whatever, the times when the chips were way, way down, then some miracle or seeming miracle, something would happen that would give us this morale boost or sense of, okay, maybe there is a reason for this. We carry on, Yeah. I think we were at a particularly, just sort of difficult point one way or another when we were playing a small club called the Independent in San Francisco. That time, Carrie and I were driving the box truck with the gear, and somebody from the venue came and said, "Hey, who's got the keys to the truck? Can you move it? We want to leave a parking space for Phil. He wants to come to the show tonight." And this sort of silence came over the room when we all looked and mouthed the word Phil. And sure, he came down to the show, had a great, great time. It was super cool, met him, and the next day, I guess, we're on the road, and Timmy gets a call saying, "I want you and John to come and do this run of shows at the Warfield with me." And, again, there's all of a sudden this, out of nowhere, this little lift of inspiration and strangeness that comes your way.
Well, I can say that actually, the most difficult thing that the band has ever had to go through and withstand was the death of Andy Gessling. Because the band was unbalanced for a little while, and it took us a while to find our feet again. And then now we have. And it's a different sound, This is, it's impossible to replace, a guy like Andy Gessling. I mean, he was pretty much a unicorn. But yeah, it was tough. It was hard. And then just when not for nothing, but just when we got our feet back under us, and it was looking like we were making some headway and drawing more people in, then the world stopped. It was that in between thing, and I call it my practice retirement.
Pandemic thing, yeah.
Yeah, the pandemic.
We just come off a great winter tour. Things had solidified with Matt and Mike joining the band, and we'd made a new record that we were kind of sitting on, or started to play some of the music, and it felt like there was a buzz happening, and everything re-energized. And then literally one day the wall just dropped, and okay, we won't. But first we thought it was just a couple weeks. So it was that weird, like, all right, next tour is canceled. Oh, well, no idea that it was going to be 2 years before anything even, But yeah, very weird in our timeline and our time frame.
Yeah,
it was, hey, we're running, we're going. Oops.
Yeah, timing couldn't have been worse, really. But, it just is what it is, and now here we are.
What are some of your fondest memories from your time as a band?
There's one when we were playing a festival out on Long Island, I think. with Sam Bush Band. We probably played first with Sam Bush Band and Hot Tuna.
Great South Bay Festival.
Yeah. And I was just in the catering line getting a coffee or something, and Sam Bush says to me, "Hey, John, you want to have a drink? Come on the bus. Let's have us a drink." This is a hero of mine, massive hero. And next thing I know, he's treating me like a person. We're just chatting and hanging out and having a good old time. And then we went and sat down as Hot Tuna started, and Sam just kept exclaiming, "Jack Cassidy is the effing man." And I just felt like, here I'm sitting next to one of my heroes like anybody else, early on in the band. That feeling of, wow, I never thought I'd be here,
There's something special about Sam Bush. He's so great with names and recollection and memory and making people feel special or important. I recall a time where he came up behind my wife and I, and I had just done a show with him maybe 6 to 8 months prior that sold out. Wonderful experience. And he came up behind my wife and I and knew both of our names and recognized us and had a conversation. And there's no reason for that other than that he's just,
That's the kind of person he is.
That's it. And I think that has really contributed to his success and who he is. And obviously the musicianship helps too.
Oh, yeah.
What's a fond memory that you have from your time with Railroaders?
I'm going to combine them because they were not similar experiences, but they have, there's a thread that goes through them. One was when we played the Celtic Connections Festival in Glasgow, Scotland. And that whole trip was great because we flew into Heathrow, we flew into London, and we played in London at what was that place called?
Borderline.
The Borderline, which is actually very famous, as famous as you're going to get, really, for Americana music club in Europe. I mean, and everybody played there. Guy Clark played there, and Townes Van Zant's last gig was at Borderline. Yeah. We played, and I've been reading about the Borderline forever, because I subscribe to this English music magazine, best music magazine on the planet. It's called Mojo, and they used to run the Borderline ads. And they would see who was playing and stuff like that. And so I'm like, oh wow, you're getting to play the Borderline, And then these guys got in a bus and drove up to Nottingham, and then I was with my brother and my wife and the gal that was helping us with publicity, Gail, and her boyfriend. We took a train up there, which was really cool. The trains are amazing. And then when we took a train from Nottingham, anyway, that's the memory is. And then when we get to Glasgow, it's just like there's just a ton of amazing music all over the city. And every night in the Holiday Inn where they put up all the musicians, anybody that played around the city that day got to go down in the basement, the convention hall, and everybody got 3 songs and it was to a packed house. And then that went till like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. And then they had out in the lobby in front of they gave everybody an English breakfast at 4 o'clock in the morning. And then while that's going on, upstairs in the bar, there were 2 or 3 different actual sections in front of the bar that sessions went on until like 4 o'clock in the morning. And like like a lot of locals, other players, and Sarah Watkins was one of the performers, and she and I were sitting there, and I said, "You gonna get fiddle and jump in?" And she says, "Hell no. I don't know any of these songs." I said, "You got that right. Jump in on a session if you don't know the songs." And then the other one was Fuji Rock when we went to Japan, which was like going to another planet and playing Fuji Rock when there was, 200,000 people. And we played in a Quonset hut on the Thursday opening night, right? And then probably maybe 3,000 people could fit in the joint. And the Japanese is so unusual. They don't have like people like holding people back from coming in, They just put up like ribbons around the doors, And then when they let them in, they cut the ribbons, and from like 3 different, egresses, the room just goes and fills up like front to back, side to side with 3,000 people. And then when we went there with our guy Kaz Katsuro, right? And he was a Japanese journalist, and he helped us get the gig. And so he was with us, and I forget who asked him. It's like, "So, Kaz, what should we do? What kind of songs?" He said, "Oh, well, 2-beat. They like 2-beat. You do 2-beat." So it's bluegrass, that's what they song. And so when we started playing the 2-beat, it was the wildest thing. You could see like 3,000 heads, and you could see that they're going left foot to right foot to left foot to right, and you see the heads going back. Man, there's 3,000 of them. And when we were done, it was like, it sounded like a 747 taking off. And I'd lean over to Joel because they asked him for something else more on the monitor, and I go, I'm just, my mouth's moving, but he can't hear me. Anyway, those are my two fondest memories, and I lumped them together.
I'm just thinking of a kind of like Timmy said, this is a thread that sort of runs all together, and thinking about all these different crazy places from Fuji Rock to Telluride to, all these beautiful places we get to go. It's an imprinted memory, and you'd have to know Andy to know the look and the gesture. But let's say we're on a stage somewhere, it's beautiful, the music's going great, and Andy would kind of do this little sort of shrug of his shoulders, shake of his head, and laugh like, can't believe we're doing this. You look over to him while we're playing, and he just have this, this little innocent kind of like, can't believe this is some of the deep concentration and everything, right? And super focused, and he just kind of do that shrug, of like, I don't know, whatever.
I guess I'll leave it with this today. I was reading a Jack Kerouac quote that said, "You realize that a man can take a train and never reach his destination. That a man has no destination at the end of the road, but that he merely has a starting point, which is home." Is there a destination for Railroad Earth? Is the road the destination, or are you just trying to make it back home?
That's a good question. It's like that, what's that TV show that's been on about the end of the world and the train that's going across the country, and everyone that's on the world is on the train. Yeah. And they never get anywhere, but they just keep going back and forth to wherever the hell they're going. But then there's no destination. It's just them on the train, and how they deal with each other, and they deal with the stuff that's around them. But there's really nothing around them because everything's dead. But it's not like that, exactly like that. But there's an element of like, we're just on the train. And the destination, I think, is to get better and make great art and continue to make great art as long as we possibly can. So that's the destination for me. I don't want to be rich, because first of all, I don't think that's possible for us. But I mean, I continue to be the luckiest person on the planet. I make a living doing exactly what I want to do and what I love to do. And I get to do it with really good friends and have a great time.
What do you think, John?
As far as a destination, I mean, I still believe, and this goes back to day number one of that moment in Todd's yard of not knowing where we were going or what was going to happen, but that there's unknown and unrealized and untapped potential with everything that we can do with these people, in this band as we go on, that I'm dying to see what it will yield, and I'm always hoping and waiting for that. And, the humble or simple little prayer I tend to say to myself every time the bus starts to roll or every time a plane is taking off, part of it is to try to manifest something, is just to please let us be able to keep going and make something hopefully beautiful in this world that means something to people and brings them joy. That's all you can ask for.
Well, Railroad Earth means something to me. You guys have both brought me a ton of joy through your music, and my gratitude extends to you as much as I can give. Thank you guys so much for all these years of all these wonderful experiences that you have provided for me, my friends, and our community.
Thanks, Jay. Thanks for doing this.
Cheers. Thanks, mate.
is begun to disappear. Sometimes I wonder where I am. Oh Lord, to hear a voice, but let it fade and wallow. Sometimes it's hard to let it go. Oh Lord, to find the words, but keep them in and swallow. One day the top is gonna blow, but the road that left me here is begun to disappear. Sometimes I wonder who I am. Oh Lord, to stumble blind for years without knowing. Sunrise has burned my eyes again. Oh Lord, to crumble quiet, watching from the silence. Sunrise has burned my eyes again. It's a 7-story mountain. It's a long, long life we live. Got to find a light and fill my heart again. It's a 7-story mountain. It's a long, long life ahead. Got to find a voice and fill my throat again. Thank you, folks. Take care.
Our final conversation of the afternoon featured the entirety of the evening's headliner, Yonder Mountain String Band. What happened to your bus, and do you guys need a ride to Vail?
I don't know, and yes.
The year was 2003. I sat stoned out of my mind in the copy room of an architectural firm when in through the door came one of the engineers who took one look at me with my long hair and my red eyes and said, "Here," giving me a few burned CDs labeled YMSB 42002. It was a pivotal moment for me, and I found myself about a year later right in front of the stage at Bonnaroo on mushrooms, taking it all in, and sort of thinking these were the golden years of independent events. What did the early to mid-2000s provide for Yonder Mountain String Band, for independent music festivals, jam bands?
I think we had for us personally, it was a kind of an open market for what we were doing at the time. I was just talking about this the other day. We kind of fit into the jam band scene because we could, we stretched out our songs a la, Grateful Dead style, but with bluegrass instruments. Yeah, you had your string cheese and leftover salmon, but we didn't have drums. And so, we stood out at these jam band festivals. We were like the weird. So like those early years we went from nothing to something like relatively quickly. And I think on the bluegrass side of things, playing bluegrass festivals, we stood out as well because we didn't even know how to play bluegrass. We were in a bluegrass. We didn't grow up with it. We weren't steeped in it. And so we kind of fit into that market in a strange way too on the fringe. And I think that was something that, like when you saw us in 2004 at Bonnaroo, that was quite a large crowd, maybe the largest crowd we've ever played for to this day.
Crowd. Yeah. It was a very sizable crowd.
And we were just wang banging some plinky planks on the.
It gave me the impression that you guys were a lot bigger than you were. But at that time, you had festivals like Bonnaroo. You had tours like the Big Summer Classic. These were big presentations of pretty independent music, if you will. I just felt like that was a really crucial time for, your style of band and jam bands in general. When we last spoke in February, you guys were on the brink of releasing I'd Like Off, featuring some previously recorded songs with Jeff. How was the album received?
From the feedback that we've gotten, it's been, people have loved it. I think there's a split in the reaction. For the most part, people are really happy to have access to the material and to get to hear that stuff from that time and to hear that sound and hear us all playing together. And then there's a small, I would say small and somewhat vocal minority of people who just are going to complain about sort of any archival release that we have or any time that we reference the original band or put out material from the original band. It gives people an opportunity to sort of, the way I look at it is express just how clearly they're still grieving or how much they're still suffering or how much personal work they have yet to do, to be honest with you. And I don't mean that, I understand it's hard, but so the short answer is overall, it's been really great. But like I said, I think from here on out, we just expect or anticipate there's a section of our fan base or former fan base that have a real hard time with us, Yonder Mountain, still existing as a band, Adam, Dave, and I still wanting to have a career in music. And I think that their opinion is that we should have just stopped and crawled under a rock and never done anything ever again for the rest of our lives. The end.
I look around the room and I'm filled with gratitude that you guys are still here and you're still doing this. And I listened to the EP and it brought back some great memories. It filled me with nostalgia and it was something new. And so thank you for putting that out. Nick, when I spoke with Adam, Ben, and Dave just a few months back, they hurled high praise in your direction. Ben mentioned you may have been asked to take on a big task in covering some old Yonder and Jeff Austin classics, maybe unknowingly in how big that ask was and that challenge could be. I'm curious, when did you first hear about Yonder? How did you enter the mix, and what's been your approach to the material?
I first heard about Yonder in my 20s. I grew up playing really traditional bluegrass, and in my 20s I got into bands that were like jam bands or newgrass jam band type things, and that was when I first heard about these guys. But I gotta be honest, like I didn't dive right into listening to all their catalog, but I was aware of who Jeff Austin was and the role that he had in the band. When they started asking me to do these songs, it was terrifying. And still is sometimes. Like, there are just times when I'm like, am I going to mess up these words? And now every Yonder fan that's here that knows these songs and has seen Jeff sing these songs a million times, they're all going to just be, arms crossed. And are they going to just tear me to shreds? It's the thing that goes through your head, And so,
that doesn't seem to be the case, though, in reality. I mean, it seems like you've gotten some really great feedback, and I think you've done a really great job in covering that material, as do these guys, which I think their opinion's obviously the most important factor here.
In truth, what's happened is that I felt very accepted, and I've gotten a lot of positive feedback, like you said. So it's just a mixed thing where, like, I don't have a reason to feel scared necessarily. Nobody's yelled at me. But it's just one of those things, you know what I mean? It's just big shoes.
In approaching the music, I mean, is it a matter of trying to honor the original sound of it? Is it you trying to put your own spin on it?
Yeah, I've had a few fans come up to me and ask me that. And I think that it's just trying to capture the spirit of what Jeff would do without trying to, I'm not going to sound like Jeff. He was him. He is that correct English?
He was him.
He was him. He was himself, and I am me, and I can't be the same exact person, But yeah, just trying to kind of get into the feel of what he did, catching the vibe, essentially.
I think you've done a great job of doing that and also putting your own spin on it and bringing your own vibe and feel to the mix. It's very authentic, very genuine, and it fits perfectly.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
When I look around the room, there's somebody here I do not recognize. Tell me your name, sir.
Well, hey there. My name's Coleman Smith.
What band tour bus did you fall off of? Where did you come from? What's the deal here?
Well, I reside in Buena Vista, Colorado. And a few years back, I got to play a gig with Adam. And I play fiddle. And over the course of the past couple of years, Adam has been very gracious and has reached out to me a few times to just see if I could sit in with the band. And at the time, a few years ago, I was quite busy. I played in a band called Rapid Grass, and I played in another ensemble called the Bluegrass Journeymen that does a lot of international touring. And I also run a music business called Coltrane Music Academy. It's a music school in Buena Vista, Colorado. So I was quite busy, and the stars didn't align. And mid last year, I finally got a call, and I could accept the gig. I was just so honored that Adam and the fellas continued to knock at the door and give me an opportunity to play with them. Since last summer, we got to know each other more and more, and much as there's big shoes for Nick to fill, there's a large catalog of music that these gentlemen have created and orchestrated over the last several decades. So I'm just honored to be a part of this band and learn this music and revel in all the wonderful places that we get to go and stages we share.
On some level, I would say you're filling Daryl Anger's shoes, maybe.
Well, Daryl has always been one of my biggest inspirations and friends and mentors, and I don't know if I could ever fill those shoes, but I'm happy to add what I do with this group and see if there's anything that I can do to make them shine even more than they already do.
I'm really looking forward to hearing you play tonight, bud.
Same.
Yeah. Dave.
Yes, sir.
What's been the highlight of your summer so far on the road?
The highlight of the summer so far, I don't know that there's like one singular thing, but it's been really cool getting to see, like we had like a couple old monitor engineers come out and work for us, who used to work for us full time. Garrett coming out and working with us that was fun. And then it's a blast to be out with Railroad and Leftover, and especially, the Leftover and Yonder, we intersect quite a bit, and so it's just fun to see everyone on a nightly basis and kind of get silly and have a good time.
Adam, you guys have a new album coming out in November. Can you tell me a little bit about that? How many tracks are we looking at? Is it a full to-do or?
It's a full album, 11 songs. Everybody, or the 4 writers, lyrically, all have songs on this record. Cole plays on the record. Jerry Douglas plays on some tracks. I'm really happy with it. I did, when we were first mixing it and editing it, I got a little sick of it just from listening to it over and over as they go. When I went to see David Glasser, he mastered it. When we went to master it, I was just like, I don't know if he has this studio that if you can ever listen to music in there, it is literally like these giant speakers and it's just the walls, everything's treated. And if you move even at like where he's sitting, he's in the spot. So if we stand right over his shoulder, like over his head even, it sounds perfect. If you move even a tiny bit to the left, you're like, it's like almost like you have 3D headphones on or something and you move and it moves with you. I think I say this whenever a new record comes out.Maybe we all do. It's my favorite record so far, I think.
What makes it your favorite?
Maybe it's the freshness of it, but I really think the songs we're still writing, we're still evolving. And I think that's like, the longer we play together too with Nick, I mean, the 3 of us have been playing together since, Ben had hair and I had no gray and, that was like a long time ago. And so, the fact that we're still coming up with new ideas is something. And there are a couple of older songs on there, too, that we never recorded. But it's mostly all new tracks. There's maybe 2/3 of them are all brand new. And then maybe 1/3 of them are either, like, not super old. There's one really old one that we'd never recorded. But I'm looking forward to it coming out. I mean, that's the way the distribution works, and we finished it. It's been mastered since the spring and it's not coming out till November, so
It must be tough to kind of just sit on that as it ages.
We've been playing some of the songs off it. We still probably have a little less than half we've never performed to this. Not yet. I think that's about right. Maybe 5 songs or something.
Are you going to perform them, or are you just going to leave it as new material when that album comes out?
That's a conversation we all have to have. I understand the point of waiting to play material. Also, as the person on stage every night, I love having new material and having new stuff into the mix. I was complaining earlier about a song that we play a lot. And it's like, I love the song. I'm just tired of playing it. I have my own songs that I get tired of playing, So having new stuff is always, I prefer that,
Sure. What's the title of the new album?
Nowhere Next.
And then you just smile. Do you want to give me any explanation behind the name?
Yeah, it's one of the songs on it. We just really I thought it fit. I mean, we know we'll get heat for it probably, and I don't care. I think it's funny. That's part of the reason I kind of wanted to call it that,
It's a killer song.
It is.
I mean, the thing about the new record, it has like classic Yonder Mountain bluegrass on it, but it also has, I'm thinking of 2 in particular, songs on there that are really new. Like it's a vibe. Both of these songs have vibe, and it is like a new thing going on, a new sound for us to be making. And I'm hoping people find it really compelling. I certainly do. And Nowhere Next, the song itself, I think it represents a whole new, like, it's a new thing in our little world of music and the genre that we're in. And it's ultra collaborative. I don't know that we've had a more of a collaborative, creative process with this. The genesis of the song was written live on stage. It couldn't have been more channeled from the heavens. And then Adam liked it well enough to take it home with him and sit with it and deconstruct it and put it back together in different ways. And he and Dave sat together and wrote lyrics trying to catch like the vibe of whatever the instrumental section was. And I think they did a phenomenal job with it. And so when I listen to it, it's like you couldn't find a song where we're collaborating and working together more than that, which in the most beautiful of ways. And it created something that's modern sounding and edgy sounding and cool, right? And it's not bluegrass. I don't know what it is. And we're actually going to play it tonight at the show. And it's been getting a really strong reaction because it's just different. And I like doing different things. Maybe you can hear it. I hope you can hear it in my voice. I feel excited talking about it. And I hope that translates, give us another 2 years of playing it. We'll be sick as shit of it. But then by then we'll have something else. Yeah. You know what I mean? And that's just how it goes. But
I've been playing it for a while, right? Like The birth of the song from a live show was 2016, but I think we finished it in 2017 and maybe started performing it then. So it's been around for a while.
Is that going to be the single you guys lead off with?
No, it's not. Nowhere Next will be one of them. I don't know what, maybe the second one. Yeah, again, it was a collaborative effort in general. It was kind of like a continuation of Get Yourself Outside, except that we could all sit in the same room when we worked on songs instead of doing it remotely during the pandemic.
What does the future of Yonder Mountain String Band look like?
I think it kind of looks like the way the last 26 years have looked. The way that we operate is established at this point. We're settled into being a touring act. Our careers are based on playing shows and selling tickets to shows and traveling around the country. So I think that's kind of just how we do it. And as long as we continue to enjoy it, the analogy that I use is that we spent a good part of the early years of this band we built ourselves a train, and we used a lot of energy to get that train to go. And now the train is going, and we're on the train, and we're riding the train, and we can stay on it and continue to ride it for as long as we want. And the only thing that really, at this point, would derail it or stop it is ourselves. Us deciding we don't want to do it anymore or pulling the emergency brake. Otherwise, and knock on wood, of course, but we seem to have, a career that works. So the trick is continuing to be creative, like Adam was talking about with the new record, coming up with new material, having new angles of approach for a musical genre now, or subgenre. If you think about where Yonder started and now where it is now, and I don't even know what to call this subgenre. I'll move beyond jamgrass. There's even more subgenres to it now. But the musical landscape in this weird little world that Yonder, was at the forefront of in 1999, it's a really full, maybe even crowded landscape now. And so I think it's not lost on us that we're blessed to be able to work and create and share our music and have shows and interact with a crowd with energy every night. And the trick, I think, is to keep it fresh and enjoyable. And how we do that is new material, new approaches to old material, and really cultivating gratitude. At least for me, anyway, that's something that I take very seriously. I don't always succeed, but my intention is there to cultivate gratitude for every moment that we get to do this, because it is so rare. It really is.
I can feel the gratitude. You guys are lucky, but it's been earned, and you guys have put the mileage in. Last I spoke to you guys, we kind of dove into the history pretty deeply of the band, and you talked about the impact of bands like Leftover Salmon and their encouragement of what you guys did and kind of vouching for you. I wonder if you guys can each take a second and think about a band that is either up and coming or a smaller tier band that you would want to point out to people and say, this is a band worth paying attention to, or keep an eye on these guys. Just like I would think that you would have wanted someone to do for you when you guys were starting out,
Did that for us, for sure.
Right.
But I like the Fretliners. I don't know a lot of, I know them because they're local, and I know the guys, and we played with them, but they have a unique sound, and they're super talented, so it'd be cool to see them get some more notoriety.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just saw them at Yarmany Grass a few weeks ago, and I was really impressed. Very skilled band. Dave?
My poor bandmates have to hear me talk about this guy all the time. But I'm really into this band called Wednesday and another guy named MJ Lenderman in the Wind. The guy's just writing fucking great rock and roll right now. It's so, so good. I can't stop listening to the guy, MJ Lenderman.
Coleman?
I'm going to say the band out of California called Crying Uncle. It's a younger band of, in my opinion, some of the most kind-hearted individuals, but also knowledgeable on each of their instruments and multi-instrumentalists, and just awe-inspiring musicians. Check out Crying Uncle.
Nick?
The guys know this kid, Kyle Letson, who has this band, Broken Compass, bluegrass band. And then they're just I'm really impressed with those kids. I say kids. I mean, they're young. They're a lot younger than me. So,
Ben?
I'll second what Nick said. We first met Kyle. He was 4. His parents live in basically the same town that I live in California, and we know each other. And so we've seen Kyle grow up and become a ferocious mandolin player and guitar player and a songwriter and singer. And he's got this band of really uniquely they're doing the modern bluegrass, newgrass combo. But what's so interesting is we see bands now that are like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you could find bands that were influenced by Yonder Mountain. And now you have bands that were influenced by bands that were influenced by Yonder Mountain, which is weird, right? And Kyle's band, like, as you think about the other sort of stalwarts of this hybridy bluegrass, jamgrass scene, I can see pockets of influence in Broken Compass bluegrass. There's a little Yonder in there. There's a little Billy Strings in there. There's a little Green Sky in there. There's a little String Dusters in there. There's a little Drew Emmett, and Leftover Salmon in there. And so to see just how far down there's a whole road's worth of this music now. And you've got a young band full of, 3 out of the 4 of them can't even be 21 yet, So like how'd they even get into the gig to open for us at some of those places? But, and you see what they're doing and realize just how established this music is. And again, it will continue to go. The seeds were planted a long time ago and now it's all growing, but I'd say Broken Compass. Yeah.
What's your least favorite Leftover Salmon song?
You want some of this nitrous?
Do those oxygen canisters work?
I think it's psychosomatic. The medical tent here they actually reached out because I think they saw me carrying this around and said, we have the actual,
it's like a tank.
In the medical, the medically useful equivalent. So
those are like at the register at like the King Supers over here.
You can't see it they have this. I'm going to just this is some bullshit. If I have a can of oxygen, what I would like the can of oxygen to be is oxygen, and what I think is maybe a little bit overkill is to make peppermint flavored.
Are you shitting me?
I'm not shitting you.
Is it organic?
And so we are well down. We're through the
gross.
It's not good. I want the oxygen. God. And so I'm suffering through it, but we're into the vape. Like, let's hit the Fruity Pebbles oxygen, man.
I'm sure it's good for your lungs, the peppermint, right?
Whoa.
Yeah.
Bummer.
Super bummer.
I would encourage you guys, when you guys are out there tonight, take a look around, take a deep breath, have that moment of gratitude. I'm having that right now, looking around this room at one of my favorite bands. Thank you all.
Thanks, guys.
Well, here I go again, gonna get in my own way. Maybe I enjoy it. Does that make me insane? Wish that I could be the version of me in my dreams. Feels right when I'm wrong. It's just how I've been all along. If I knew what was broken, I don't know what would change. The same old suffering don't hold me down these days. So take me if you can, leave me if you can't understand. I will come to the light, just let me have my time in the night. Sometimes when I close my eyes, I see myself living in a better frame of mind. Me and I tell myself it'll all be fine, but they might be lying. coffee. Let the racing thoughts begin. Am I growing or failing? Which narrative will win? All I know now, my heart's trying to pound its way out. Maybe I should breathe, it doesn't really sound like me. Sometimes when I close my eyes, I see myself living in a better frame of mind. Me and I tell myself it'll all be fine, but they might be lying.
This episode featured Fire and Brimstone by Leftover Salmon, Seven Story Mountain by Railroad Earth, and Here I Go by Yonder Mountain String Band. This has been a presentation of Music Marauders.
Festival